Hello everyone and welcome back to another Township episode. I hope you mates enjoyed the last episode that we posted, because I'm doing this one literally right after that one. Because I have no idea until I see it. But this episode's still going to go out because I am committed to doing this. Thumbs up to commitment. Besides the point, we're going to get started with today's story. This story involves a tale from a Township Tale. A strange one at that, but it does exist, and it's a weird one at that. This tale exists in the news section of the Township Tale website, and is the only one that actually has genuine lore to it. I haven't seen anything else besides updates about the game, and that's a lot of meta speak. We don't want to hear any of that. We're not on that yet. Of course, Quest players might. Quest players would like to hear some updates, even though we don't have them, about whether the forest or the mines are going to be having the trials at some point. And yes, this was recorded at a time before all of that existed in the game. So if you end up finding this way after that, well, I'm glad you found it. Do consider staying. Which kind of brings me to my point that you should consider becoming part of the channel. It's an easy button right there at the bottom, and just let me know what you guys think. And if you happen to see anything else from behind this episode, maybe you have further interest into becoming part of the channel. But I thank you. But anyways, back to our story at hand. To describe to you what I'm talking about, there's one story that exists in this news section of Township. It's this little story right here. The Tale of Balsakaen. I presume that's how it's said. Do correct me if I'm wrong. But this little story describes the reason why there is a form of abilities and magic in this world. And I'm not talking about the shrines such as combat, archery, mining, or anything of the such. But what I'm talking about is the very rare and hard to get climbing tower. For many who might say it's just like, oh, it's not hard. Well, guess what? Not everybody ends up playing it 20 times over. Or want to, for that matter. But good for you. I'm glad you had a good time. But this explains the reason why the tower exists in the first place. This is the Tale of Balsakaen. Long ago, the stars twinkled and told the tale yet to come. A tale of despair for the present and hidden promise of the future. Such was written the fate of this little group of mountain dwellers. Yet steadfast they were in their ways, trusting in their grandeur. Long ago, the masses assembled and were thus peered by scrupulous eyes. Timeless observers, capable only of singular power, nay, a power to face the creeping, moonlit fingers that spelled doom. Yet steadfast they were in battle, for whom else possibly could. Long ago and for a time, ill fate was thought dispelled. With faith in their warriors the people held strong. With those thoughts, the fight to survive placated. Yet victory was only seen in the future where all of time could be found. Long ago evermore, power had called them here, and its echo would reach for many more. Of time-spanned lands they will be, blasted by unique strength, yet here they would pool, seeking the enchanted goal. Long ago then, the critic would commit a sin, to build and give to land, only to steal and take from life. A great prison fit for the indomitable spirit of his people. Yet here it would stand for many generations to come. Not so long ago, after those who rose and collapsed before calamity, it stood in defiance of time and awaiting patiently. A people with a mind to make their strength the power of many, yet now it would wake at the ring of the worthy. Such was the tale once told on a starry night, a stubborn stand against prophecy, the tragic battle without end, a gambit against greater foe, a hope cost another time. Such was the tale of the great traitor thief, Bosain. That is the tale of Bosain. Now in many cases this is seen to be a small story. Seems like the words, to me at least, based on the rhythm and the rhyme of it, maybe it was a song. A song they probably sang because of this grand historical moment, left behind for us as a gift, the ability to climb and move to our own needs and wants, is because of this grand event. But obviously, through reading this, I can understand that some of the words are a bit strong and defiant in their own terms. So I went over it and to break down every section so that we have a better understanding for you. And we will go over them right now. That way we get a better understanding of what they meant and maybe what happened during this time. So let's begin with every spot. So to go into a little bit more detail of what this story is telling us, is that the story of Balsakaen describes a prophecy involving a group of mountain dwellers, possibly miners from a nearby place or travelers from long distances. It's a prophecy that says that these dwellers will suffer loss to give a gift for the future, which is what we have now. The dwellers are described as being steadfast, or in other words, soldier-like or dutiful, but also being shown as having a sense of confidence in their march, similar to the walk for the 7 dwarves in Snow White. I mean, that scene says a lot, and it pretty much describes exactly what this is saying here. Yet we don't know exactly how many people were in this group when they ventured. Obviously, with the images alone can only show so much without exceeding the illustrated limit. The masses that it discusses is likely talking about 2 separate groups of people who arrived at this location. Whilst they arrive at this place, some sort of deity or god was spending much of their current time focused on these dwellers as they arrived. But this god or observer was likely only capable of doing one thing: observing. But I have speculations to believe that it is the reason why the battle started as it watched from the stars. In the time of the dwellers' existence, or their history, and everything that they know about their culture, they have had no doubts about winning a battle, or being victorious. This idea sent the group into a sense of confidence and empowered them. With all this in their heads, the sense of anger and rage started to fade away, believing that what was going to happen for them would likely turn in their favor for future battles. They started believing in fate, believing that whatever happened here was going to be for them no matter what they did. The reason for their arrival to this location was due to the idea of some sort of power being here. Yet it wasn't only the dwellers group that arrived by the signs given by this unknown power. All sorts of people from the land, people of different origins, would arrive all at once at this location. Each group had their own unique set of skills and equipment. Since the power was still calling to them, it caused an act of battle amongst each group to another. My original thoughts on this was that the power was the same one that they discussed in the timeline. Yet we understand that the power that this story talks about is the climbing ability, and I find that it wouldn't make too much sense if the power that the Kumoi were looking for in this timeline was just the climbing ability. And plus, the Kumoi are never discussed specifically in this, but who's to say that Bosain wasn't Kumoi himself? But still, this secret power is likely something else, and we'll discuss it in a future event. The critic that they describe in this story is likely one of the dwellers that arrived here, or more specifically, Balsakaen himself. Bosain was someone who was a provider to the land, someone who'd built up the world for the people in it and continued to balance in the world that he lived in, making sure that everything was peaceful. Yet in this instance, he became a thief and betrayed his own people for his own personal gain. This place would later become his prison, which would also be a reminder to all the people who followed him, or anyone with the same bad intentions with their sins would have that same cause. It was a location that forever would encase his soul. The tower. The only thing that we have on the tower is the why it was built, to contain Bosain in the tower for his wrongdoings, but we don't know how or by who. It was likely built by a multitude of people knowing the size of the tower and the bricks in it. But to say the most part, there's also a speculation and some stories about the fact that it was one mate who was able to build the tower himself. But we'd have to look into that and see if it's true. As the story continues, they talk about the tower and how it continues to stand above all things, even after the calamity, which is likely what the original timeline discussed as the Big Bad, an event that created all of Township's unnatural creatures that we see today. The tower only waits for those who have the strength to push themselves through this place and prove that they are capable of taking the power that has the strength of Balsakaen's people. In some case, to be worthy of this ability, the climbing ability. And as to this day, the Great Tower can be seen in the distance of all that remains, a beacon to remind everyone who exists that this is a story of how we are granted abilities beyond the average person, a feat greater than all those below the stones of the walls, the bricks that continue to hold this Great Tower in its place. This is the Tale of Balsakaen. I do hope you mates enjoyed this. Let me know what you think of the story and all of the wording that could have came out of this, because it's a specific one to break down. There's a lot of key words in there that might matter, but a lot of vagueness that gives it a little bit of an openness to see all the possibilities. Of course, my question is still how and when was this tower built? How long did it take? Who built it? And I want confirmation on that so we get a better story on this. And just thinking about the idea of the tower, standing at the top of that tower and just seeing the hand, the likelihood for me is that Balsakaen, his soul is trapped in that tower. I don't know if that's a key word of saying that he was buried underneath during the battle and they built the tower on top of him, but it definitely could be something, because one of the images itself shows his body encased in some sort of underground cocoon, which is likely where he was buried, trapped his soul, to say the least. And I could believe it, that they just built the entire tower on top of his body to make sure he never came out. And maybe that does have a tie-in to what the secret power is. Maybe it's not the climbing ability, but in fact maybe he did find this secret power, and the reason why they had to trap him underneath the tower was so he could never escape. But unfortunately he will live forever. It is speculated that this sacred power was immortality, and if that's true, then he still rests under where the tower stands, which is a bit creepy, and I wish I didn't think about that. But there's also some ideas that the stone that we press at the very beginning of the tower to start granting ourselves this ability is a fragment of his soul, and eventually when we reach the very top and get our ability, a piece of his soul sits and rests within ours, and we are able to use it. It's obviously not enough for him to control us, possess us, or anything like that. This isn't Phasmophobia or any sort of Conjuring movie, but it's definitely something. But yeah, Tale of Balsakaen. So let me know what you mates think about these stories and overall what this is doing, because I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying it a lot, just discussing these stories and everything and such, because it's interesting to see where this game goes, especially after a long time of me playing this and never knowing that there was a story to begin with, and finally being able to present it gives it a different perspective. So let me know what you mates think. And with that being said, do consider becoming part of this channel by pressing the little button down there in the corner. I said it at the beginning, and if you did enjoy this little collection and understanding and breakdown of this story, do let me know. And if you have any other recommendations, always send them in the comments of the video that you've seen. And do consider becoming a member of the channel. You will get your name featured at the beginning of the episode like I did this one, get more involved with future videos ahead, and get access to custom emojis. So let me know what you mates think. I hope you enjoyed, hope you have a wonderful day, and goodbye.